Hello and welcome back to Confessions of a Ride Operator. Today in part 2, I thought I would talk about some of the mechanics I used to work with at my job. This selection is just a small sample but my most memorable of the bunch. I will change the names to protect the innocent. I will start with Larry. Now Larry was not a bad mechanic. But I would say he was sometimes too curious for his own good. My single most memorable experience with Larry was at the Calico Mine ride. We went down due to a PLC error. Now PLC stands for Programmable Logic Controller. The PLC on mine ride at the time was an amalgamation of parts dating from the 60s to the early 2000s, all sort of stitched together. Today though, the Calico Mine ride has a very modernized PLC compared to what it was when I worked there. Larry arrived at the attraction and immediately decided to head into the mountain to diagnose the PLC. This is not an easy task as you're dealing with layers of technology. He told us it would take 10 or 15 minutes tops. So we waited for him to return. And kept waiting. 2 more mechanics arrived and we kept waiting some more. And still kept waiting. It had been close to 45 minutes now and we had heard nothing on what had occurred to our attraction or if we were going to go back up soon. I decided to sneak into the mountain and see if I could get a word with the men on what's going on with the attraction. But I stumbled onto something far more interesting than that. On the floor laid parts of the PLC, and surrounding it were the 3 men. They were arguing on how the parts were supposed to go back together. It seems Larry was very quick to dismantle the thing without really putting parts in order of dismantling. So now there were 3 grown men arguing with each other about how to put together parts of a computer for an antique train ride. Needless to say, I did not say a word and snuck back up to the dock to report the news. We were down for about an hour and a half over this whole situation. When we finally did go back up, all 3 men told us there was no problem they could find and that everything was fine. Nice cover, guys. The next mechanic I remember is Ned. Now Ned was a crazy and funny guy. I really enjoyed working with him, honestly. Ned had a rubber crash test dummy mask he would have from time to time. Occasionally he would walk up to accelerator and take an empty seat next to a guest. He would put the mask on and we would launch the coaster. The on-ride photo was always hilarious to see. The guests' faces were always confused or just weirded out as a man with a crash test dummy mask was riding next to them. Ned was a pretty good prankster as well. He managed to scare the daylights out of my at the time girlfriend at Supreme Scream on April 1st. You see, during the morning tests, the mechanics will manually move the attraction up and down for inspection. Today he decided to leave that task up to her instead. He moved out of sight and told her over a radio to lift the ride vehicle up. And then to start lowering it. As she started lowering it, he started screaming on the radio to stop, that he was being crushed. She panicked and almost raised the vehicle halfway up the tower. It wasn't long before he popped out from behind the tower and said April Fools over the radio. He thought it was hilarious. She was less than impressed. But Ned did a good job getting our attractions up and running, and because of that I do think he was one of the best mechanics I ever got to work with at the park. Those are my 2 most memorable moments when it comes to mechanics I worked with. There are a small handful of other experiences that happened. Like when a mechanic almost hit me with a ride vehicle on Scream and Swing on purpose. Or when I had to walk a mechanic through resetting an attraction because he had never done it before. But these aren't quite as memorable as the 2 I mentioned today. Anyways, that's all the time I have for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and I will continue telling my experiences as long as people find them interesting. Until then, I will catch you all later. I hope you had a great holiday as well. Bye for now.